Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Delivery by Christmas. Delivery by Christmas is a Polish Christmas romantic comedy that tells the story of Marysia, a mail courier and single mother who has to work hard in her job leading up to the holidays. After a staff Christmas party, a spiteful coworker sabotages her mail packages, resulting in her delivering gifts to the wrong recipients. This results in Marysia having to work on Christmas Eve so that she can deliver the gifts to the right people. Her journey is both helped and complicated by the presence of Krzysztof, who helps her with delivering the gifts as he tries to obtain his own parcel, and the two slowly bond over the course of their journey. While I like the idea of what this movie is going for in terms of depicting a more depressing version of Christmas and the stress that the holidays entail, for me it didn't work. It doesn't put a lot of effort into its main characters and overcomplicates its story with numerous others that barely feel connected, so it ends up being a bore to sit through. The main character, Marysia, was interesting in the sense that she has a lot on her plate to deal with, at least in the beginning. Being a single mother and having to work so much as a courier did make her sympathetic enough at first for me to want to root for her to retrieve the gifts. As time went on, though, I found her character became increasingly unlikable. There was just something about her snarkiness that I found off-putting, which I can understand why, since anyone would be grumpy about having to work on Christmas Eve, but she never really evolves throughout her journey or goes through any sort of gradual development. There isn't much depth behind her as a character either. It feels like her son Maksiu disappears about halfway through the movie, which is a shame because her son could have been a great way of showing the toll that her job takes on her, and the movie never does anything with this idea. The other main character, Krzysztof, is also kind of intriguing at the start, but loses steam over time. He is hell-bent on obtaining a family ring from his grandfather so that he can propose to his girlfriend, and it's nice to see the lengths that he goes to get it, but again, he never really changed much over the course of the story. It would be easier to connect to him on a deeper level if the movie bothered to explore his relationship to his girlfriend, but there's only one brief scene dedicated to it. Other than that, he spends the majority of the time either freaking out over the ring or arguing with Marysia, and rarely anything else, so it gets old really quick. As could be expected, the relationship between these two never takes off as it should. There's not much change or growth between them even as they make progress with fetching the mail, which leaves the dynamic between them being flat at best and antagonistic at worst. I never felt any sense of chemistry between them as the story moved along, which makes sense to an extent because they're both miserable at that stage of their lives, but it never goes anywhere until the final act. Until then, the two just bicker with each other until something slightly more interesting happens on screen to break things up between the two. I do like that the main characters are brought together through the rigors of Christmas and stresses associated with family and work during the holidays, but it never builds from that point on. Instead, the movie keeps spinning its wheels in this area while it repeatedly shifts focus to multiple other characters spread throughout the story. These characters, mostly consisting of the gift recipients, were where I found the most fault with this movie. Simply put, there's too many of them, most of whom never contribute much to the main story at hand and make the movie as a whole feel scattered and unfocused. All of their subplots vary differently in terms of their contribution, but none of them are good. They range from being boring, to confusing, to just straight up bizarre. Many of them are full of strange moments and tonal shifts that just don't make any sense with how they're implemented. Some examples of these scenes include a manager pretending to be a lion, a husband commenting on the beauty of Botswana giraffes, and an old man reminiscing about the painting of a chimpanzee. I would suggest that there's some sort of point as to why there's so much obsession with animals in this movie, but again, the way it's approached here is too bizarre to bother caring. The one common thread running between all these characters, including the main ones, is that they harbor some degree of loneliness, either stemming from their current relationship or a lack of one. In this sense, it's great that the movie shows all of these people coping with their feelings in different ways, as it helps with the variety of scenes. The problem with them, however, as with the main characters too, is that they're simply just not interesting to watch. I can appreciate that they all have some sort of arc in place, but because there's so many of them, there's not enough time to get accommodated to them properly, especially when many of them are presented in such a strange manner too. I felt that the movie put a lot more effort into its Christmas setting, which might sound odd considering how minimalistic it is, but in this movie's case it works. Everything takes place in a city where everyone has some sort of hustle and bustle going on, so people barely have time to prepare for Christmas, much less enjoy it. The lack of decorations and characters' loneliness, combined with its commentary on the state of holiday crunch periods and stress associated with this and family time, makes for a desolate view on Christmas that's not seen very often in movies, and I was genuinely intrigued by it. Even when happy Christmas music is playing in the background, characters still can't get in the mood. I like the idea of a movie exploring a more pessimistic side to Christmas while still having an underlying layer of hope, because not everyone sees Christmas as some sort of magical period of happiness. In fact, it can be the complete opposite. But as I mentioned before, the movie gets too distracted with its multiple characters and subplots to make any sense out of it. And as I've already hinted at throughout the review, the movie was incredibly boring to sit through. Its humor is so lacking in energy that I couldn't even be bothered to cringe at its weirdness, and the pacing drags so slowly that I was surprised the movie ended up being 90 minutes long, because it felt way longer. It starts pulling itself together a bit in the final act as Marisia and Krzysztof make progress with retrieving the gifts and start showing signs of actual development, but by then it's too late. It wastes so much time waffling about that the entire story feels undercooked, and any significance behind its messages end up lost in tedium. Overall, Delivery by Christmas is an admirable but ultimately disappointing holiday rom-com that fails to generate any real romance or laughs. If you like holiday rom-coms and you want to see a more realistic and depressing version of Christmas, you might be interested in seeing this, but don't be surprised if you end up being bored with it like I was. I like some of the ideas and concepts this movie is going for, and perhaps there's something else behind it that I just didn't get, but as it is now, I personally don't see much merit behind it. It doesn't know what story it wants to tell, so it ends up all over the place and ultimately fails to deliver. What did you think about this movie? Did you find it boring like I did, or do you think it was a good interpretation of finding hope amidst holiday stress? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Delivery by Christmas. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the stop motion animation Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Bye bye!